Just like some people will speak about the Sammy Sosa, Maguire era, this is an era that will always be talked about in sports cards. When I'm 90, God willing, on some sort of podcast, maybe in the metaverse, in VR, or who the hell knows where technology will be, 2018 to 22, 19 to 21, 2020, like that will be a thing. Was COVID, that thing that happened back then, a factor? What else was a factor? And so I think that's kind of, that's how I see it.
Gary Vaynerchuk, welcome to Sports Cards Live. How are you doing, pal?
I'm well, brother. How are you?
I'm good. Gary, it only took me about 2.5 years to get you on the show. Welcome, thank you for making the time. I gotta do something somewhat ceremonial right off the bat. I gotta grab that, take that off my wall. That's been up there for 2.5 years.
I'm pumped. I'm very flattered, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. So listen, we don't have a ton of time. I'm gonna jump right in. And I want to get your thoughts on the trajectory that the hobby has been through since 2019, the National in 2019, where I first met you, through the pandemic to today. What are your thoughts?
You know, I think it's an industry that got much broader awareness. Much like many industries, sneakers, NFTs, cards, anything, social media, like markets, it's a market that I think is in a really healthy, solidified place because it went through its underrated period, potentially its overrated period in this cycle. You know, we had the Maguire era, we had the 80s junk wax era. You have these moments where 2, 3, 4 years, but every time you look at it, I find like the industry evolves and gets stronger. Sports cards have been a thing in popular culture for obviously for over 100 years and have had real understood value now for almost a half a century, right? And so you're gonna, like any market, it's gonna have its ebb and flow. Contemporary art, antiques, this is coins, stamps, you know, like things have their ebbs and flows. I think this last one was incredibly healthy and incredibly vulnerable, meaning vulnerable because like base cards of like speculative players, you know, you're gonna get hurt on that. You're gonna get hurt on those kind of things, just like I did with Todd Van Poppel and Brian Thomas, like Brian Taylor, excuse me. That, you know, you saw that happening during this era, which is why I stayed very narrow because I learned in my teens and 20s about that. On the flip side, the amount of people that have come into the industry is extraordinary. And so I think the hobby, and I've been watching the hobby pretty carefully now for the last year, I think it's in a very healthy place where it seems like there's rationale to things versus just hyperbole. And you know, that's exciting and healthy. And you know, I think it's been a moment. Just like I talk about the mid to late 80s and early 90s, right? The upper deck era, just like some people will speak about the Sammy Sosa, Maguire era, right? This is an era that will always be talked about in sports cards. When I'm 90, God willing, on some sort of podcast, maybe in the metaverse, in VR, or who the hell knows where technology will be. You know, that 2018 to 22, 19 to 21, 2020, like that will be a thing. Was COVID, that thing that happened back then, a factor? What else was a factor? And so I think that's kind of, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that the hobby's in a great place right now. We had a lot of transients come through over the past couple of years, and I think those that stick it out will be successful, and some of them left, and we're in a healthy place, healthier than ever.
Those people that left are also chasing real estate, chasing NFT, and what's great is a lot of people that came in that might have left fell in love. Yeah. Right? Like people don't talk about that. When an industry gets a lot of awareness, sports is a very revered thing, and non-sports cards are always around pop culture, right? Like, you know, like I'm just pumped to see how many people came in to be passerbyers and day traders, but have actually stayed. You know, obviously I'm aware of how present I was during that time, and you know, a lot of people, acquaintances, former high school friends, young kids that followed me on social, so many of them have stayed in a very significant way. You know, for me, I'm looked at all the auctions this last Friday, looking at, I bid on things, very recently, and are making my bets. I just got into a place where my profile got into a place where I realized me sharing things led to a lot of just speculate, just people making up stories. It just got muckery, and so I was like, look, that's okay. does it suck because I want to talk about the things I'm excited about? Sure, but am I able to like execute and go to local card shops almost every weekend? And I'm so pumped I was at the National in an aggressive way last year. A lot of VeeFriends stuff, but was buying cards for my collection. Picked up another PSA 10 Jordan. I'm like already counting down the days to Chicago, and I'm trying to find some strategies of like how to get back in a little bit more public without people speculating on the cards that I buy.
Yeah, I think that's one of my questions was going to be with your level of influence, how do you feel about publicly sharing the cards that you are buying, and has it changed at all over the past few years? Because I see some of the controversy around you when you do this, and to me it seems like you genuinely love the hobby. I see your passion at the National.
One of the things that attracts me to NFTs is all my wallets are public and people can see that I don't buy and sell. I buy what I want. And the things that I'm excited about are like just very sound players. Like I'm not speculating on Bobo or Purdy. You know what I mean? To me, I learned those lessons in my teenage years. So when I was buying Giannis or LeBron or Jordan or Durant, these are like Pele, like these are not things that are like, that was probably what was toughest for me. I didn't anticipate, because I thought everything I was buying was so sound that it wouldn't feel like, and because I wasn't selling any of it, like I felt pretty confident, but I get it. Jesus, when there's money involved, there's all sorts of shit going on, and I'm not naive to my, the size and scale of my audience, and so I'm desperately trying to figure out how to share my passion for it without creating speculation. I have not been able to figure that out. And so I'm trying to,
Yeah.
I also have a fairly big baseball practice in VaynerSports, and it's very addicting to sign a player and then want to buy their first Bowmans because you're literally that close to it. So, and I think that's pure speculation. No matter how good our draft picks are, a Bowman first is as scary as it gets, especially if you go in the high end. You're spending real money on a very unlikely outcome. Most prospects don't get to where you want them to go. So I don't know, I love sports cards. It's something that's been in me my whole life. I'm paying actually a lot of attention to it lately because of the calm. Pricing feels more appropriate right now, and I'm trying to be thoughtful about it. And I did well, plenty of things that I own, because I held everything, are way down from their highs like anybody. But I also bought early for a lot of stuff. It wasn't like I was buying at the highs or speculating. And so whether it's kabooms or vintage basketball cards or I feel pretty good about what I have, and I'm excited about, building on my collection going forward.
Great. You said you're paying a lot of attention to right now. You're actually bidding on some cards. I don't know if you're aware, but on every one Thursday per month when PWCC's premier auction ends, I do a live show on this channel.
Oh, that's cool.
With Adam Gray at PWCC, and we talk about the items. I want to invite you to come check it out. Tune in while you're looking at it. A lot of people do that. It's a lot of fun.
I will. What time do you do it at?
We go live at 9:30 Eastern because it's the extended bidding starts at 10 o'clock Eastern. So
that's really fun. I will definitely tune in.
We're on for 3.5 hours talking about all the items. It's a lot of fun.
That's super neat. I will check that out one time.
Right on. So where do you see the hobby heading in 2023 and beyond?
Beyond ebbs and flows, like any market that is around collectibles and art and things of that nature, 2023 is impossible because we don't really have a good understanding of the stability or non-stability of the current economy. Every day that 10,000 people get laid off at Google and Microsoft and Spotify is another person that makes good money that uses their disposable income to buy a card that they've always wanted that's taking them off the board. That money comes off the board, that ends up dropping the prices and supply and demand. So I think it could be, if you told me cards are down another 30% off their high, I'd be like, uh-huh. If you told me we've hit the floor and you're gonna see a 10% increase, I'd be like, uh-huh. The logic is there for me to understand either path. I am not when I got all hot years ago, I just saw 7 to 10 trends that were all colliding at the same time. Sneakers was a big part of it. I saw a lot of entrepreneurial sneaker kids not be able to get inventory anymore and were looking for something they could get inventory for, and I saw that clearly. I went to Cleveland National which was what, 18, right? I think
17 or 18.
Yeah, 17, right, 17 I think, or 18, right to your point, 17 I think. And I was able to like see it on the ground. I was like, ooh, these kids are like, basketball was ripping hot. There was just like a lot of things happening. They were just also, I was buying Luka bases at $30. It was just like the buy-in was lower. I think that that is not what I'm seeing now, which is like it's super underpriced against demand that was coming. This is more like it's normalized, and now the economic situation will have an impact, and so I would say, I'm guessing down another 30%, up a 10 to 20% generalization feels like my super guess of 2023. But that's fucking pure guess.
One comment you just said is that when somebody buys an item, they're now off the board. They don't need it anymore. And that's one of the issues I have with relying on comps all the time is, well, yeah, that's the comp. But if the underbidder gets gets a copy, or the underbidder isn't competing now with the eventual winner, so the price might come down unless there are new participants and we're getting more and more people who want to buy them. So there's that snowball effect of the hobby growing, more participants coming in. We've surely experienced that between 19 and 22. Now we're kind of in a place where we're hoping to retain as many of these people as we can.
That's the challenge of the hobby that I have a lot of empathy for, which is demand creation versus purity. I have so much empathy. If you're a pure collector, literally have no thought of ever selling your cards, spike up moments are disappointing because the things you want go up. If you're an investor, which you're allowed to be, that I always thought was super interesting, like that people in the hobby on any direction. Like I hated when people that day traded and flipped would make fun of collectors. I'm like, why? Who are you to tell people what they want to do? But also on the flip side, if you're a collector, what do you want? Like dictatorship? Like you don't want people to be allowed to buy something and sell it? Like it's really hard, and I'm empathetic depending on what side someone sits on it. But to me, it's kind of like the baseball issue. The culture of baseball didn't allow Bryce Harper to like build the sport's popularity. The humility and the tradition of baseball and hockey is a direct correlation to its popularity. And one thing I was fascinated by with sports cards is like, there's a lot of like, it's almost like people want certain things from individuals or organizations that bring awareness to the hobby, but they don't want other things. And that's just not how life works. Like, we don't get to pick and choose, like, and so like, yeah, like that's what happens. Like if you're gonna tear down companies, media properties, organizations, individuals that are bringing awareness to the hobby, there's gonna be an effect on how much new attention is on the hobby, and that, impacts supply and demand curves, and that might be a good thing or that might be a bad thing. I'm very detached from the GaryVee of it all. I'm overly empathetic to people that make up stories about me. Like, I'm being dead serious. It's because they love it. Like when some kid that I knew was like telling somebody else, like, I bought a bunch of Zions and I'm unloading them, and I never bought a single Zion because I had a big thesis that he was too injury prone and it was too high risk, and plus Panini printed an ungodly amount of product that year, is my thought. He was like Ken Griffey Jr. to me if everything went well. That's like disappointing, but like I'm empathetic. Why? Like people come from a place of scarcity and fear. So for me, it's been easy, but I've watched a lot of people leave, a lot of companies leave because there's a lot of tearing down in the hobby, just like there is in every part. Like I don't think the hobby or the industry has any more tearing down than others. I just think it's small.
Yeah.
Like when in politics, when you keep tearing down, politics are big. In social media, those are big. In Wall Street, they're big. In sports cards, if you turn away 13 to 50 organizations or people, that could have an impact.
Yeah, for sure. So as we wrap up, just 1 or 2 more minutes, Gary, you mentioned you'll be at the National in Chicago in July, August. Are you going to be at the Mint Collective or the Burbank show in February?
No, my schedule's really tough. I want to get to a Dallas show. I really want to get to a Dallas show. I'm going to some local shows in Jersey and New York. I'm just between family allocation. Like I think people forget that I run a 2,000 person company in VaynerX. VeeFriends is a real, time constraint. I got a lot to do there with building out that intellectual property. The card stuff I've been, by the way, that's been super fun for me. The cards and VeeFriends, like two passions of mine colliding, has been super fun. But the National is a commitment that I like lock in. And then like, I really want to get to one Dallas show this year. That was like a priority of mine, maybe the fall. And then I'm going to like the Westchester and like Northern Jersey stuff. So keeping trying to, and honestly, very like, I kind of like, at this point in my life, it's a little bit of like this, I'm trying to, I just want to provide value and I don't want to provide distraction. And I was really happy with the value I was able to create. But then at some point, I'm empathetic that it became a little bit bigger, and then like, I have no interest in creating anything that people perceive as negative, so I'm trying to stay pretty incognito in those shows, and then at the National, I want to bring as many people from my universe to the National, because yeah, they may want to come and take a selfie with me, but I'm hoping it leads to them discovering the love of this, and they pick up a Nolan Ryan rookie from that dealer, or they, that was incredibly satisfying for me in the last couple of years. People literally just driving 3 hours to Atlantic City to ask me a business question. They come, they take a selfie, business question, and then 4 hours later, like no interest in cards. And then 4 hours later, they came back to my table and they're like, I bought this. I was like, you bought a Tom Seaver rookie card? Yeah, it was my favorite picture when I was like, that's when I'm like, oh, I'm having a positive impact on the market.
Right on. Well, I saw your booth at the National this last year. It was low key. It was great. Your passion exudes from me as a lifelong passionate collector. Do me one favor before we sign off. Give a shout out to my buddy Jason. We call him the Worm Dog. He's a big fan of yours.
Worm Dog, thank you for the love. I hope I see you a bunch of times at these shows and throughout the upcoming years, my friend.
Right on. Thanks.
Cheers, bro. Stay well.